Devi and I want to talk today especially about the 20 years of Ananda in India. And it's an important milestone in one's growth. You know, a work like an individual has certain milestones that seem important to celebrate. And so we're going to, this year, we'll celebrate here today and next week in Gurgaon, and then later in Pune, we'll have a big celebration there, all recognizing the 20 years. But it's, in a certain sense, a little difficult. Swami had a phrase in one of his songs, life flows on like a river. Well, you can, if you're sitting in front of a river, you can see what's passing in front of you, the water that's passing in front of you. But in a sense, you don't know where that came from, and you don't really know where it's going to go. So 20 years is just, in a certain sense, an artificial marking point. Where did the teachings come from? Well, they go on beyond time. You know, our teachings come from Sanatana Dharma, eternal righteousness. That means really eternal righteousness. So that predates the earth, let alone predates the galaxy, that predates the universe, because it's eternal. It goes on, and we don't know how far into the future. We know that Sanatana Dharma will continue eternally, but how long will that truth be expressed by a group that calls itself Ananda? We don't yet know those things. One time, Swami Kriyananda, who came, we marked the 20th anniversary because Swami Kriyananda came to India in 2003. And one time, shortly after he had been here, he was leaving, and he was leaving Nayaswami Dhyana, who was in Gurgaon at the time. And she said, Swami, how can we carry on when you leave? And he said, remember, this is not my work, and it's not your work. This is the work of Babaji and Master. And so it's really their work that we're trying to do. None of us have the power from our ego to create anything that's sacred. All we can do at very best is to get our egos out of the way enough so that the divine can express itself through us. That eternal Sanatana Dharma is trying to express itself. And in this kind of era that we're in, historical era, that expression has come via the teachings of Babaji and Lahiri and Sri Yukteswar, and especially Master. So the way Ananda's work in India began was in a little bit of a strange way. We were in America. It was 2003, and in America, Swami at that time was living in Italy, and we got a letter in America saying that there was a couple who were designers of books of Master and for Yogoda Satsanga. And they wrote a letter saying there isn't really very much happening, and could Ananda come to India and help Master's work spread? Well, we got that letter in America, and we thought, just one more letter, you know. You get these kinds of letters. And so we debated, should we let Swamiji know, should we not? And finally we decided yes. So we sent an email to Swamiji and copied that letter to him. Within hours, probably, he wrote back and asked about 10 of us to come to Italy because he wanted to discuss something with us. So when we got to, of course, we came quickly, and when we got there, Swami said, I've been thinking about this letter, and maybe we should start a work in India. What do you all think? So I'll translate that for you. Swami was saying to us, I'm going to India. Do you want to join me? And we said, yes, yes, Swami, of course. And so we came to India, starting in Gurgaon. And then from that point, the work has spread and spread and spread until now it's all over India. And so, meaning that there are devotees everywhere. We have centers, many centers around in India, and many, many meditation groups and devotees here. But Swamiji simply was trying to express in his own way, in his own discipleship, the commission given to him by Yogananda. Remember, this is Yogananda's work and Babaji's work. It's not any of our work. To the best of our ability, we're trying to tune in as disciples, getting ourselves out of the way, to express with clarity, with purity, those great teachings that they have given us for this age. I'll share with you, I had a rather interesting meditation the other day. I was meditating, and probably most of you have heard that we're in Dwapara Yuga, coming out of Kali Yuga, the age of materialism, into Dwapara Yuga, the age of energy. And the night before this meditation, about 3 days ago, I had been reading again some of Master's writings about the energization exercises. And in that writing, he said, just beneath your skin is an enormous flow of energy that's the prana of God that comes through the medulla and flows and creates all of your life, all of your cells, all of your everything that you have is created out of that flow of energy. And then he went on to talk about how the energization exercises helps us feel and attune ourselves to that flow of energy. And so this meditation, I was beginning to try to tune in to Master's writings on that. And to a certain extent, I realized that our spiritual path for all of us that Master and Babaji have given us for this age is really mostly to help us shift our, one might say, center of gravity or our self-identification from the physical body to our astral body, to our energy body. And if we can do that, then as long as we identify with the physical body, then we're limited by the laws of the physical universe and the laws of health. And Master gave great teachings for those who are caught in the delusion that we're this physical body. Then he said, here's the right way to eat, here's the right way to exercise, and gave many, many teachings for that. But behind that, what this whole line of masters are trying to do is trying to help us break the delusion that we're the physical body and realize that we're the energy body, that we're this, and if we can do that, then we become subject to the laws of energy and light and Om, which are much less confining than the physical body. So I was in this meditation trying again more deeply to feel myself as energy and as light, and to shift my identification from the physical to the astral in this case. And so this teaching for this age, one might say, is the teaching to try to get us, and by extension humanity, to drop the delusion that we're still stuck in form and stuck in time and space and this river that's flowing on, this flow of time flows on like a river, that if we can shift our identity from being the water to being the energy in the water, it becomes universal. And so this great teaching that they brought, so Swami, obviously for Ananda, Swami had met Master, had been with him. Master brought these great, great teachings from India to America. In a sense, he often talked about how India and America were forming a kind of a partnership to lead the world forward. India bringing the spiritual knowledge and the energy and the spiritual science, and America representing material efficiency and the practical things. And the time had come for those to join together. So Master came and he brought this Sanatana Dharma from India. And when he brought it to America, if you've got something that's been around for several thousand years, it gets some cobwebs on it. And it's as if he cleaned those cobwebs off and got back to the essence, at least for this age, of how to express Sanatana Dharma, and did that in America. And now we got this letter saying his teachings need to go more widely in India. And Swami took that not as a letter, but as a commission from Master himself to bring this energy back to India. And he stated, as soon as he came, an interviewer asked him why he came to India. And he said, to make my guru, Paramhansa Yogananda, better known in the land of his birth, and to make his teachings better known in the land of India. And so Swamiji did that very dynamically, started planting seeds right away. He had a television show that reached millions of people, and from that grew people interested, and from that classes. And we're going to ask both Daya and Keshava as well as Nayaswami Dhyana to speak a little bit about just a couple of stories about the founding of Ananda in India. But we also want to honor specifically the fact that Ananda in India, for us sitting in this room, is located right here at this beautiful ashram in Panchil. And so that ashram is about 10 years old. So that's another marker that's placed here. So we want, maybe Dayan Keshava will tell us a little story maybe about the founding of the ashram here. Some know the story, others don't. But I guess the point here is that even though 20 years is an important marker in the flow of these eternal teachings that Master and Babaji and this line of gurus have, one might say, repackaged in the proper packaging for this age, the proper understanding for this age. 20 years is a very, very short time to be trying to work on spreading those teachings. So all of us here have been greatly blessed by the fact that Ananda got established now 20 years ago in India. But it's not just enough to say, oh, that's wonderful. We have now the responsibility for carrying this work on. And for Devi and me, we travel around the world. And it's such a joy. Everywhere we go, we see a whole new generation of people taking up these teachings and making them their own, and then they themselves begin to do the same thing that we started doing, in our case 55 years ago, and in the case of Ananda in India 20 years ago. But this flow, this grace, this blessing of Sanatana Dharma that flows on eternally it's going to flow on eternally. That's not the question. The question for all of us is, are we going to participate in that flow? Master said often that the channel is blessed by that which flows through it. So for all of us, if we take up these teachings sincerely, practice them sincerely, and then share them in whatever way seems appropriate in our lives, then we will be blessed by this flow of Sanatana Dharma passing through us, the flow of Babaji, the flow of Master, those great self-realized masters. Their consciousness flowing through us will change our consciousness until I hope we can say at the end of our life, the way that Swami said at the end of his, he said, I can no longer tell where Kriyananda ends and Yogananda begins. It seems all one to me. That's the goal, at least for me. I hope you join us in it.
I think the real moment, the reason we're all here today is because in 1948, a young man in New York went into a bookstore and picked up a copy of Autobiography of a Yogi. This was Swami Kriyananda, not yet using that name, J. Donald Walters. And he read the book nonstop for a few days, got on a bus 3,000 miles across America. But while he was on the bus, he kept thinking, these teachings are so wonderful. He had two motivations. One, I must find God through these teachings. And secondly, I must share these teachings with everyone. And that's the core principles of Ananda, to the deep, sincere life search for God and the desire to help other people by sharing those teachings with everyone. And then in 1969, Swami founded Ananda Village, and we were there in the beginning, and we could tell many stories. It was not easy, it was not clear what was going to happen, but I remember the very first day I arrived at Ananda, I was standing, I didn't really know anybody, I was 22 years old, I was standing there, I'd come all the way from the Midwest, graduated college, and I felt something behind me, and it was like this huge wind, and I didn't know what it was, because I didn't see the trees blowing. And I turned, and there was a man quietly standing there, not very impressive looking. He had long hair, but it was tied back in a bun. He had Bermuda shorts on and a flowered shirt. But I felt this wind, and it was energy. And I just knew something great is going to come from this. And so we began, and we had to figure out how to create houses and many, many things. It was grassroots level creation. But then we came to our 20th anniversary in America, and I remember Jyotish and I and a group of others were touring around, sharing. We had a beautiful slideshow about Ananda. We were going to different cities. And I remember we were in Portland, Oregon, and they had rented a big auditorium. There was a big lighted marquee we called our tour Cities of Light. There was this big marquee that said Cities of Light. And right next door, there was a movie theater. And the movie they were showing, just equally lit, equal size, Cities of Light, Prince of Darkness. And I thought, it's that simple. That's your choice. Bring light into the world or just be pulled down into the darkness. And that's what Ananda has tried to do all these years. And it's what you have done. We always feel so honored to be here with all of you, because we know you have busy lives, you have demanding lives, and yet we also see in your eyes a deep spiritual commitment to follow these teachings, to practice these teachings, and to share these teachings. And just looking at all of you, when we started Panchil, some of you were there from the beginning, and you were just trying it out, not sure, all these things. But now we have acharyas, we have brahmacharinis, we have teachers, we have people sharing and leading this ashram, really. And it's so beautiful to watch. And so what does the future hold? Where are we going? It's already in place. Swami said what he wanted to happen in India. He wanted to have ashrams where people could come, learn the teachings, share the teachings. We were just talking with Nayaswami Roma, who leads the ashram in Bangalore with her husband Nayaswami Haridas, and they have a retreat outside of the city. And so we were just talking with her on the phone yesterday, and I said, "Are you going to start something in the city?" She said, "We have 19 trained Ananda meditation teachers, and they all live in different parts of the city, and they are teaching in their neighborhood." And I thought, yes, that's the way to do it. And so Swami wanted the teachings to spread. He wanted education for life to spread. We have this magnificent work going on in Gurgaon where we're training teachers in the education for life system. We're supporting an orphanage in Mumbai. There's so many different things that Swami wanted to happen, and they're already happening. We have a wonderful publishing house where his books and other books are getting printed and distributed. So 20 years, that's not a long time, and all of these things are happening. And it feels to me like a groundswell, like it's just beginning, because the beautiful thing I've seen about Ananda over the years is that people recognize, it says in the Christian Bible, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear." And he who has eyes to see, there's something of value in these teachings. These can change my life. And we have seen miracles happen. We could spend a long time talking about Master's blessings in people's lives, but you all have eyes to see and ears to hear, and you see there's something of value in these teachings, and I want that. I want it in my life. And another thing about Ananda is the doors are open. We don't turn anyone away. If you're sincere, come and try it. I remember a few years ago, there was a young boy man, in our Karma Yoga program at Ananda Village, and he came up to us and he said, he was sort of like a hippie guy, and he said, I heard that chant, "Will my days fly away without seeing thee, my Lord?" That's harsh, man. And, but he got what he could out of it. That was fine. We didn't see him much. I don't know what he did with his life, but nevertheless, though you plant seeds and you get surprised where the seeds germinate and how they germinate. And so I will close just by saying it is such a joy to feel your dedication. We also have a pilgrimage here with people from Australia and many cities on the West Coast and elsewhere. Why do they come? To unite our works. And in this world so divided by hatred, violence, you are different from me, I can't support you. In this world, so filled with suffering and hatred, for us to come together and sing "Many Hands Make a Miracle," it's absolutely the truth, absolutely the truth. And then I know those of us who have been a part of Ananda for a long time, he would always end a public talk with peace, always. And he would sing, even when he was an old man and didn't have a very good voice. People would hold him up so he could sing. And I think all of us were just almost moved to tears because we could feel him there singing with all of you. So many hands make a miracle, and that miracle is one of divine peace in this world. It's why Master came at this time, because he knew the direction the world was going, and it wasn't a good one. And he said, we will join together in light, in friendship, cross cultures, cross borders, and say, we are a city of light. Not necessarily in form, but like Jyotish was saying, an energetic city of light that spans the world. And we were all a part of it. And we thank you very profoundly for your commitment and your appreciation and your service to this great work of Master. God bless you.
Devi was saying about the first years of Ananda Village in California, how it didn't look like much. And also when we arrived with Swamiji in 2003, it didn't look like much at first. Ananda in India, Ananda Delhi. In 2004, Daya and I taught the first public meditation classes in Delhi. And there was a handful of people in a dusty library near Rajghat. But little by little, as Daya said, people started to expand, and they started to share. They started to plant seeds. The students that we taught, little by little, began to share with others the seed that had been given to them, so that so many other seeds can be planted. And here in Delhi, there were several of us acharyas who lived in Gurgaon, but a couple of times a week, on and off, over the years, we'd come to Delhi to do some program, to meet with devotees and try to nurture them. And as Jyotish and Devi were saying, really to plant the seeds of Master's vibration and Babaji's vibration in their hearts. And at a certain point, we got more and more encouraged because several of our students started to pledge a monthly donation. They became our first supporting members. And then we thought, we can plan. We have a budget. We know what money can come up. And we can almost afford a rent of a small flat in Delhi. And so Daya and I shifted here with a flat which had room for us to live and a drawing room that was big enough for a small group. And so we had most of our activities there, but we needed a bigger group for our level 1 classes, our meditation classes. And thereafter, just a year or so, the landlord announced that we needed to leave, that he needed to come back to the house. And I'm reminded at this point of Master told the story of, or rather he made the statement, this was in the 1930s, when in the West it was a time of hardship and high unemployment and suffering. And he said so very strongly, He said, if I needed a job, I would shake the heavens to give me a job. I would put out so much energy. I would knock on every door. And I remember in Swamiji told the story of how here in Delhi in 1962, he had a dream of a project that could not go forward. He learned gradually without the express permission of Prime Minister Nehru. And it was absolutely impossible for a young foreigner to have an appointment with the Prime Minister. But he knocked on every door. He went through every possible connection. He got his appointment with the Prime Minister. And we found ourselves in perhaps a similar, less dramatic situation. We needed some place to, not just to live, because a little flat would be all right for the two of us. It would be easy to do, easy enough, possible to do, but where could we meet? And we were outgrowing the classroom, which a number of you remember, in a school room that we would rent for one day a week. And we needed a place where we could meet during the week. And we looked. Every devotee we knew, every property dealer we could find, they would show us, and we would go out dozens of times and see a hall that was too small, way too small, way too expensive, usually both, no parking. And yet we knew that we had to put out every possible ounce of energy. And this is the lesson for all of us, that our goals are within sight, but we need to put out all of our energy. As Master said, the spiritual path is 20% our own effort, 25% the effort of the Guru on our behalf, 50% the grace of God. But in order to achieve our 25% of the equation, that means 100% of our energy and our potential.
So then our dear friend and student, Pia Singh, said that, I happen to have a house where I lived for a few years, and it's my mother's house, but she's passed away now, and it's just lying empty and vacant, but it's a little bit run down. Do you think, actually she said it to Nayaswami Dhyana, because Pia was in Gurgaon at the time, and Dhyana got on the phone right away and called me and said, let's all meet at the house, let's go. So that was this house and this ashram. And so we all met here maybe within the hour. And it was very run down. In case you've ever seen the property across the street, sort of looked like that. It had a tree growing out of the building. There was a lake at the bottom of these stairs here. And so it took about a year of renovation, which also Pia so generously paid for. But so by May of 2014, we moved in here. And then by spring of 15, Pia also wanted to have the beautiful murtis behind. And so she had those made. And we had a Babaji the size of Master here. And our dream was always to put it out in the garden. And so we'd always told Pia, and Pia also hired a landscape gardener, we're just going to put a Babaji out in the back. And so after all the plans had been done, it's like, now let's see the Babaji. And so we said, here's the Babaji. They said, what? It's not big enough. So then just incredibly, Pia commissioned that these beautiful, amazing, incredibly magnetic, inspiring murtis in the back be created. And so Keshava worked with the carver a sculptor in Jaipur to make them all, made several trips to Jaipur, and in the end they were delivered just before Nayaswamis, Jyotish and Devi came in spring of May 15. And so, and of course, most of you all, well, many of you weren't there then, but some of you were. I can look around and see some of you who are all there that day. And I would just like to add that, you know, when Nayaswamis, Jyotish, and Devi say, you know, they've been doing this for 55 years. And some of us just took level 1 a couple of weeks ago. Some of us, like Pankaj and Rahul and many of the people around I see, were also with us. Hari, were also with us in Delhi Kannada School. And we used to have to, every single Sunday morning, we had to set up a book table, we had to set up a registration table, we had to set up the altar, and then after our classes, we would take it back down again. And, you know, this, many hands make a miracle. Like Nayaswami Jyotish said, I think, it's the consciousness of Babaji, of our Guru, that flows through us, that changes us. And it is our highest dharma to allow them to change us. And we all have different karmic situations and different dharmas at home and different places where Divine Mother have placed us in our lives. But within that dharma itself is the higher dharma of always expanding our awareness and expanding our consciousness. And Swami gave us a very good formula for that: say yes to life. So when you know, the masters call and say, please come, be my instrument of love in this situation, of kindness in this situation, in wisdom in this situation. And of course, get together with your Guru Bhais, with your spiritual family, and support each other and love each other and encourage each other in your meditation, in your getting still in meditation. And together we are walking this path, and that's this many hands make a miracle. We laugh and dance and struggle as friends until our dreams achieve their ends. And the other thing Swami always said was that Ananda was here to find joy, to find bliss. And Swami told Nayaswami Dhyana and Nayaswami Jaya one time, you know, it's not good enough to bring people to the path. It's not even good enough to bring them to Kriya. It's like you need to bring them to bliss. And so we can think of that like, oh, I gave somebody an autobiography, I feel like my job is done with that person. Or no, I actually got them into how to meditate, level 1, now I feel like my job is done with that person. It's like, no, how are they doing? Are they growing? Are they getting more joyful? Are they more peaceful? It's sort of the role that each of us have been given from these great masters. And it's not just for the acharyas or for the long-term members. It's for each one of us that walk in the door, because if we are here, they have called us. And so it's really a wonderful blessing to be celebrating these 20 years together. And Nayaswami Dhyana, let's welcome Nayaswami Dhyana.
Wow. Namaste. It's really a joy for us to celebrate these years together. And I'll just tell a brief story of Swamiji. From the beginning, there were many Westerners, but he kept saying, I want Indians. Where are the Indians? We said, Swamiji, there's nobody here but us. He said, I want the Indians. And he basically, we didn't know anybody, but he basically said, go find your brothers and sisters. Go find your Guru Bhais. And he would send us out, go out and teach, find Master's children. Where are they? You're here to find them. And we would go do level 1, 2, 3, 4, all the major cities. And then people started coming. And one wonderful time that happened with Swamiji was in Chennai, down in the south. And it was probably, I think, his last talk, maybe his last or one of his last. And there were so many people they couldn't fit in the hall. So there were 3,000 people who came. I think 2,000 could fit in the hall. He was so happy. And in Delhi, there was Tivoli Gardens, there was 1,500, and many places. Siri Fort, there were thousands, and he was just so happy that these were Master's children. So in Chennai, Swamiji he had to be helped to the stage. He sat during his talk. He couldn't sing very well. He gave the talk, and there weren't questions and answers, but it was a wonderfully uplifting time. But Swamiji he was so unwell, but he still gave that talk. And then afterwards, we went for a dinner, and Jayaji and I were there, and he says, first, we couldn't even sit down. He said, call Dharmini and Dharmarajan and tell them we need a center in Chennai. So we said, okay, Swamiji. So we called them, and they said, he already called us before the talk. And so he wanted us to have places like this where people could come to. People could have satsang, people could learn the teachings, people could have prasad together. He wanted us to set up Ananda Sangha family. It wasn't just come learn the teachings. He wanted us to find our family members. And so one last thing I'll say is I was in Chennai many times, all the cities, but this last time there, one time before, they had a small center, but the living room was tiny, and that was the center. And I would stay in the back room and come out, and they would be practicing the music, and they'd be setting up the book table for the next day. So I came out, and I said, it was like 11 o'clock at night. I said, hey, when do you guys go home? They said, what do you mean? This is our home. And that's what Swamiji wanted. He wanted places like this all over India where people would say, Ananda's my home.